It's not the doubt, it's not the fear, it's not the anger. It's when you start living as if those states are you. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to recognize an unconscious identity, what it takes to really shift, and how to know you're making progress. Now, first, you must understand what an identity is and how it's stored, how it's created. An identity is formed deep within your unconscious body-mind. The body-mind is far beyond just the brain. It's your entire biofield, the entire field in which you exist, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So this includes the mind and the body. It's one. The identity is learned by your unconscious body-mind in two ways: repetitive thinking and feeling, and heightened emotion, such as trauma. So when you repeatedly think the same thoughts and you feel the same feelings, you behave in the same ways, your unconscious body-mind is paying very close attention. It's learning. And it learns after a period of time to store those thought patterns and feeling states in the body-mind. Because if you keep thinking and feeling in those ways, then it thinks that it must be critical to your survival. And so it becomes a stored identity. And what is an identity really? But really just a learned relationship with yourself. You've learned to relate with yourself and with the world around you in a very specific way. A very specific way of thinking and feeling. This is your unconscious mental and emotional conditioning. Now, a great example of an unconscious identity is the perfectionist. The perfectionist identity forms on a foundation of toxic shame. Toxic shame is what occurs when one is experiencing life and they're expressing themselves authentically, emotionally, and when that expression is responded to by, let's say, an authority figure, a parent, by disapproval, it's learned by that individual that self-expression in and of itself is not right. It's wrong. It's wrong to experience a negative emotion, even if that's what feels true to you in the moment. It's met with disapproval. And in that moment, the unconscious mind forms a belief that who you are inherently, intrinsically, is wrong. And this is toxic shame. And so in order to cope with the pain of feeling wrong simply for existing, simply for expressing your humanness, a false self is created, a false way of thinking, feeling, and being, known as the perfectionist. It creates this perfectionist archetype in order to gain and win over the approval and acceptance of the world, of others. Ultimately, it believes that if it gets approval and acceptance from other people, it will experience love, which is ultimately what your soul truly desires. And so the perfectionist is a way in which the ego mind, or this unconscious identity, is attempting to get the love that the soul truly wants. Now, the key to shifting this is to understand that there's never, ever been anything wrong with experiencing emotion. No matter how low on the levels of consciousness that emotion is, it's not wrong to experience emotion. It's human. It's not wrong to experience a negative thought in the mind. The only time it becomes a problem is when you identify with it. When you think, I am these negative thoughts, I am these negative feelings, and you assume guilt and shame because you identify with the thinking and the feeling. That's when an identity becomes a problem. This is the critical understanding that one must have in order to shift their identity. So the shift truly takes place when you shift your relationship with yourself. An identity is a relationship. So if you want to shift this stored relationship with yourself, then it comes down to making new choices. So let's look at making new choices within the context of shifting your identity. When you're in the midst of an emotional trigger, you're feeling the familiar emotions of that identity. You're feeling or thinking, noticing the familiar thought patterns of that identity. And maybe you're noticing the familiar actions, the behavioral expressions of that identity. If you do nothing with that identity in the moment when it's triggered, nothing will change. The identity assumes control of your consciousness. And you know exactly how that's going to go. The same repeated loop, the same cycle of behavior, the same results. In order to change your relationship with yourself, you must give yourself a window of opportunity. This window of opportunity comes through pausing, stopping. In the moment of the identity trigger, you pause, you stop, and you begin to take on the position of the watcher. You begin to become aware of the identity. You notice it. You notice the emotions, how they feel. Where are they in the body? What is the sensation like? How strong is it? You notice the thoughts. How does it feel to think these thoughts? You notice the other impulses, such as behaviors and actions and so on. You become identified as the soul. You realize in separating yourself from the thoughts and the feelings that if you're aware of them, then you can't be them. You're watching them. And so this is the very beginning of shifting your identity, is to recognize that you are the awareness behind the state. Therefore, you are the one creating the state. And if you're the one creating the state, this is the moment in which you get to make a new choice, a choice to create a new state. And what's that new state? It's a state of peace, a state of peace in response to the trigger, to the identity. And so you're there in your observance, in your place of neutrality, allowing the triggered state to be there. And you're doing this to formulate a new response. You're forming a relationship with your soul. You're responding from a higher level of consciousness, a higher level of mind, as opposed to reacting from within the unconscious identity. And so this could be something such as acceptance, understanding towards yourself, compassion, forgiveness, for you're doing the best that you can. You've simply become unconscious in this moment. You see, this is a way in which you create a new way of responding to the unconscious identity. Now, the goal here isn't to get rid of all triggers. That's what the perfectionist would do. The goal is to simply use triggers to practice mastering the new response. It's a bit like stepping out of a role in a movie. You don't need the role to not be there anymore. You simply need to recognize that you no longer need to play that role. As you become accustomed to forming new responses to old triggers, you're going to realize how fast you're progressing. And so this is a way of tracking progress through tracking the way that your relationship with yourself is evolving. You go from unconsciously reactive to consciously responsive. You notice triggers sooner. The emotional charge is weaker. You pause, and instead of reacting, you choose differently. Now, this transformation happens over time, just as the formation of your previous identity. It took time for you to form that relationship with yourself. It happens over weeks, months, sometimes years, depending on how strong your resolve is to form that new relationship. Let go of expectations as to how fast or slow this transformation should take place. Only focus on the one thing that matters, mastering new responses. The result will take care of itself. It's a natural consequence. So we begin with awareness, the awareness of what an identity is. How does it live within me? How does it show up? How does it express? When does it happen? How does it feel? And we move into the next step of understanding that this is merely a game of mastering the creation of a new relationship within myself. And we begin to track progress by noticing how this relationship is evolving over time. Now, if you want to learn how to let go of attachment, then click the link in this video and you'll be taken to the training on how to let go. I'll see you in the next lesson.